everyone, and welcome to our UNTV session and to the program Youth in Action. Today we're going to discuss a very urgent topic, social sustainability of the youth in time of austerity. You know, we've been hearing a lot about the problem that young people face around Europe and also in other parts of the world. Spain, Italy and Greece occupy the TV screens. But let's think what is happening in our region, in region of Central Eastern Europe and the Central Asia. Do the young people here experience similar problems? Or if they're different, what are these problems? So let's hear their voice. What do they think and feel?
Hi, I'm Alexandra. I'm from Romania. I'm turning 27. I'm currently living in Hungary. I don't have any idea, or I've never had an idea to emigrate. I did not really want to do that. My main focus was to get an MA in a good field with education, which adaptation point seemed impossible in Romania. I don't think the MA level is very good. Incredibly mind-opening experience.
Sorry for technical problems.
That's time of roasting.
Currently I have two part-time jobs here, part-time jobs here, part-time jobs here.
Hi, my name is Elena. Now I'm 24 and I face a really huge problem because currently I'm graduated and since 1 year I should to take a part-time job because due to my lack of experience after graduation, none wants to take me as a full-time employee. Actually, that is one of the main problems that I face during post-crisis. Well,
voiceless youth.
Hello guys, my name is Vladimir. I'm from Moldova. I'm 23 years old.
It was not to be entertaining. We were meant to feel sorry for this.
Oh, it has a message. It has a message. Work.
Job.
You see, poor Moldovan guy can't even talk.
Okay.
Let's update. No. It's over. Sorry guys, it's some difficulties with colleagues.
Like, can you repeat what you said?
No.
But please.
Hello guys, my name is Vladimir. I'm from Moldova. I'm 23 years old. So I stay in the capital. I live in the capital of the country. I have a wife and a daughter. My problem is that struggling with covering all my costs. Like my revenues are smaller than my costs. The heating bill is absolutely awful. It's just killing me. So I have a job.
No. Just give it a little bit more time. It will download. Now start again. It will have a voice. Start it.
Start again?
Yeah. No, just click.
It's interesting, but the salary is not really good. So just wondering how could I obtain another job with a better salary. So let's see.
Future.
I think you did it intentionally because cycling on board's job Work, dance,
I'm 24.
No, he's 23.
23.
You should listen more attentively.
He needed to repeat it more often.
Let's try another one.
Hi, I'm Celine. I'm from Hungary. I'm really worthy. I'm really worthy. I'm really worthy.
That's nice.
I'm really worthy about my
Okay, no, it's okay. We can proceed. Yes, as Andre said, the message is that these people were telling the stories about their lives and what kind of problems they faced during the crisis. I'm sorry, I just need small speed. Okay, and before we proceed, we would like to ask the audience, what is youth for you? What is austerity for you? What is youth unemployment? How do you understand it? Are we really talking about the same things? That is the question. So, Giedra, for example, what do you think?
What is youth? How do you define youth?
I still feel very young. So I think that youth, it matters not of the number in the passport, but actually, how do you feel? So I think that youth can be, till 29, from 9 to 29, or till 35. Or it can be, you are 19 and you're already old because you're just complaining. That there is no work, no good salary, as we heard. And austerity.
What is it?
It's a very difficult question.
We'll have it definition during our.
So maybe someone else has an answer. Ismail, what is youth for you?
We're not going to spoil our definition of austerity. 2 weeks.
Okay, I ask you to be more cooperative.
Let's be like this. It's just lack of, resources and strict financial, resources. There's like no money if you don't spend anything.
So no money, no fun, no friends.
So, Zarina, what is youth for you, for example? How would you define it?
Yeah, I also feel still young, and I think that youth, they're part of the society, represented by young people like you and me, you and Andrei. Very important part of the society. Our future.
Age group.
Well, it's too simple.
Anyone else?
It's the start of your adulthood. I think for me, it's like between being part of your family life, father and mother, and you are the children, and then starting the other family. I mean, that's already, but for me, it's like the time in between.
So roughly, if we want to measure, or if you want to establish a category, approximately when do you think it starts and ends?
18, and it ends. It depends on the region and cultural things, but let's say around between 25 and 30.
Okay, thanks. So obviously we can see that we all understand this concept differently, and this is the problem that we faced preparing this program for you. And to clarify the issue, I'm pleased to invite in our studio the ILO expert, Bart. Please, can you share with us what actually youth is? What is the time frame of being a young person, and what is austerity management? That's also important for our topic. And
Okay.
please.
Okay, thank you very much. I am an expert from ILO, and just a little description for you: what is youth and what is austerity, and to give you an explanation of the category of age groups. Okay, what is youth? There is no real. There are different definitions for youth, but for example, the European Union defines youth as process from dependent childhood to independent adulthood. And also, adulthood is also considered to be when people are self-sufficient, more self-sufficient. Youth should be therefore understood as a transition phrase. Coming to austerity. Austerity is a state of reduction of government spendings, addressing budget deficits. I hope that's clear for you. And regarding the age group. And regarding the age group, also there is no real definition like categorization of the age group, but taking different international organizations and different countries give different ages for youth. For example, UN defines youth as starting from 15 to 24, and World Health Organization and UNICEF give the age starting from 11 to 19. In our paper, we, according to 3 reasons, we are focusing from the age group starting from 24 to 29. And here are the reasons. 15 to 29. And here are the reasons. First of all, a transition period became longer. What is the reason? Because education became longer and students have to study long. So accordingly, they are more dependent from their parents and they cannot have access to the labor market sooner. And another reason is that recently UNFPA officially recorded increased the group of youth from 24 to 29. If you have questions,
you can ask them later. Can you please also clarify what is social sustainability? This is extremely important for us to be on the same road.
What is social sustainability? Of course, I think you already guessed that it is a part of sustainable development. And the idea of social sustainability is that the future generations have the same access to social sustainability like the current generation. Should I add something more?
Well, I think it was an exhaustive overview of the main concept that we have to keep in mind. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for attention.
Yeah. Here we would like to continue with providing you with some more expert knowledge, and we therefore invited to our studio representatives of ministries of economy of 5 countries from the region. And here is the Minister of Economy, representative of the Ministry of Economy from Hungary, and, as well as from Moldova, Serbia, Armenia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. They will share the problems that youth is facing in times of austerity and the crisis.
Alright, so as you know, citizens of Hungary, we are not doing very well. The crisis hit us really hard. Also, our goal is nationwide to try to stay independent. So we recently refused some loans from IMF, which causes a lot of problems. I know it's going to be boring for you, but that's what the economists do and ministries as well. So I'm just going to share some figures with our viewers. The GDP is 97 billion, the national debt is 78 billion. So Hungary's budget aims for a deficit of 3.8% of GDP for 2011, aimed for this. It has been quite a rough period. We haven't managed to fix everything. We had to install some austerity measures, really serious ones. Our citizens are not very happy, but I think we should all cooperate and try to get out of this crisis together. So, as measures, we removed the 13th monthly pension. Of course, people were not happy. We increased the retirement age to 65. Of course, people again are not happy. They have to work more. The The minimum pension benefit freeze and restrictions to the pensions were also removed. We reducted the sick pay benefits, housing subsidies, and gas prices and district heating compensations. We froze childcare benefits. We reduced the pharmaceutical subsidies. All of these to increase, we installed measures to increase public sector efficiency. Increase the taxes. We also put more taxes on tobacco, alcohol, gas, gambling. We increased the social security contribution by 1%. We had a private pension fund reform. All of this affected every single person in the country on various levels, from children to pensioners. And this will have to go on in 2012 until we manage to stabilize our economies. Concerning unemployment, we do have a lot of youth, we do have a lot of programs. We invested in trainings, employment creation, income support, and multi-component program. Yet, our youth do not have jobs. Among the European countries, Hungary is really having troubles in providing jobs for the generation.
Thank you, Hungary, for sharing your expertise. Let's move on.
And now Moldova, a tiny country sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania. We were not hit a lot by the crisis. We are performing very good. Actually, the government spending is increasing year by year, so no austerity in Moldova. And youth unemployment is gradually decreasing. Yeah, so it's not a problem in Moldova to find a job for the youth, for the young person, but it's a problem to find a well-paid job because salaries are very low, GDP per capita is small. But that's the situation in Moldova.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, now we're moving to Ukraine, and it's really nice to hear that our neighbor is doing so well. Well, let's say that in Ukraine we face a little bit another situation. Again, if we are talking about youth unemployment, we also was hit by crisis, and it has its impact on the youth unemployment percentage rate as a percentage of economically active population. So. The main problem we can mention here is that after the crisis we have like 5% improvement since from 13% till 18% of economically active population. And but what is I have to mention that. In Ukraine, the less vulnerable group of youth is from the age 25 till 29, and well, the percentage of younger unemployed people, that is 15, 24, is much higher. And also the number of part-time jobs, part-time employment among the youth increased, and youth just has to work on a contract basis. About public expenditures on education, we had a slight increasement, so it's not in this case we didn't have any historical measures. And about expenditures on health, we also have a nice trend which go up because let's say that we face a lot of problems due to epidemic of tuberculosis and AID, so we just cannot reduce our expenditures. So yeah, but the unemployment among youth is really a long problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on. Time is really pressing us.
I'm glad to come here and present about Kazakhstan. As we saw that Hungary and Ukraine are having problems in regard to unemployment, but the case in Kazakhstan is quite different. We are not suffering from the youth unemployment to the extent these countries are suffering because there has been no such explicit austerity measures taken from the government, and that's why the situation is different. And the expenditure on education in the country has been nearly the same in the pre-crisis era and in the post-crisis era. And when we talk about health expenditure, it has been the same, and we are not like cutting the budget on health, education.
that's why I can say that austerity measures are not the same in all the region, and as there are severe austerity measures in other parts like in European Union and Balkan countries, and it is less severe in Kazakhstan.
Good morning, everyone. As a representative of Serbia, I would like to tell you this social scenario in Serbia. On the slide, you can see there are certain austerity measures that have been taken in Serbia. I won't get into that, but I would like to tell you the situation or the impact of these austerity measures and unemployment on youth in Serbia. First of all, our budget deficit is 4.25% of GDP. And it's sad to see that Serbia ranks as the second largest in the area of brain drain in the whole region of Europe. And it has an unemployment rate of 40%, more than 40%. It's sad to see that how the youth, instead of working hard, has chosen to use knowledge, rather than using knowledge, has chosen to use associations to get jobs. And this is the kind of social impact that the Serbian youth has because of unemployment and austerity measures. I just wanted to flag these points. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm representing Armenia, and just a few words about the situation in this country. First of all, as a continuation of other countries, I'd like to say that in Armenia we also face some bad situations after crisis, and they were reflected in lack of employment and also high prices. Another thing that I would like to mention are austerities. There were austerities in Armenia, and it was recorded in 2011 that 2,000 jobs were cut. Another thing regarding unemployment, youth unemployment, as you see in our table, in 2007 we have 15.6% of unemployment, and in 2010 it was 15.6 again. But in 2006 we had another picture, which was 55.9% of unemployment, which is according to national statistics. This much for Armenia.
Thanks a lot to our experts. But, well, this is the world of figures which don't really tell us what do the young people feel. How do they perceive the situation where they find themselves, for example, in Hungary and in Ukraine. We also could see that basically not all the country have that explicit austerity measures. And we can conclude that the new EU member states and the Balkan region had more or less, well, I would say, they announced the packages of austerity measures. And it's pretty much clear what's been going on there. With the region of the CIS countries, it's less clear because it seems that, at least from our knowledge and from the data that we have, the austerity measures there, we cannot talk about austerity measures as such. So the picture is very different. But now let's move on to the representative of our Department of Monitoring, which would share the results of the survey that they conducted. Because we decided to ask the young people to reflect on what do they feel and how they see themselves in the future. What is the effects of the austerity measures that they experience currently? And our experts will share the results of this survey.
Thank you very much. And our department, which is me and my colleague Merita, are very glad to present our research, what we've done for the group of the countries, what our dear experts were talking about. So we made a short, very pilot research which has covered 37 young people from 18 countries. And here on the slide you can see the distribution that most of the respondents were from non-EU countries, about 45%. The rest is Balkan countries, EU countries and Central Asia, the less participants from it. The gender distribution was pretty the same, so you can please. Okay, and they're represented in this diagram, which is quite common, so we call it spider. This is satisfaction or not satisfaction of the respondents with some aspect of their life. Actually, there are aspects cover well-being. So well-being is when people satisfied with certain aspects of life, like education, job, health, whatever, environment. So it's mainly three pillars of sustainable development: economical, social, and environmental parts. So from this slide we can see that less satisfied a young generation with security, with social protection and environment, but absolutely everyone was satisfied with their education. And some open questions. I'm satisfied with my life. Why? I have 2 laptops, delicious food, internet connection. I can realize any opportunity I wish. I'm independent. I can afford life on my own.
Okay. In terms of perception of young people in life satisfaction, we see that the majority of them are satisfied about life. So 57% versus 27% who say that their life now is the same as their life 4 years ago. And compared to the other graph, you see a high correlation between those people who say that my life today is more satisfied than my life 4 years ago, versus those who say that I don't feel any impact on of the economic crisis or austerity measures in my life. So you have 57% of people who are more satisfied versus 29% of the people who say that I don't have any impact from this economic crisis on my life. And if we look at analysis among regions, we see that the majority of participants who say that my life has been impacted from economic crisis are participants who come from EU countries, while participants who come from non-EU countries from Central Asia say that my life is not affected. This also is linked with the representatives of respective ministries of labor of various countries explaining simply.
Yeah, I would like to provide just few quotations from this slide. People who said that yes, we are affected on austerity measures said that they felt cuts on medicine, and they said that it affects a mostly vulnerable group of people, and some of them said that they started to apply for another job that they were educated. But people who said that no, they were absolutely satisfied with job, high salary, nice people around. So that's also interesting to see.
As explained in the previous graph, since the majority of the participants are satisfied with the life that they have today, they also are optimistic about their future. So you see that 23 respondents, or about 62%, are optimistic for the future, compared to 6 participants, or 16%, who are very optimistic for the future. And the number of participants who see the future with a very pessimistic lens is very low.
So the participants admitted that thankfully our world is a global village and I can easily escape from any kind of suppression. Or I believe in myself, I can take the right decision for the future, and I think that things will go forward for me and improve.
Also, some of the reasons why participants are optimistic for the future are linked to their ability to take decisions for their future. So 76% of the participants say that they can take decisions or are able to take decisions for their own future, versus 24% of the participants who say that they are pessimistic or they are not so sure if they are able to take the decisions for their future.
76% of the young people who were questioned replied that they can imagine their future in 5 years. That they were quite funny answers, what they say. I will change the world, is it enough? No ideas what will happen in 5 years. I will have great job, kids, and enjoy the life. I cannot imagine life even in 3 weeks. Why you ask me about 5 years? And some very serious quotations like conducting PhD, running their own private business, work as an international consultant, have a good job with sufficient income, and enjoy a decent life and sustainable standard of living.
In terms of economic situation, graphs show that the majority of participants is employed. So 30 participants, or 81%, versus 7 participants, or 90%, who are not employed. Among the group of the participants who are employed and have a job, 27 participants are satisfied with the job that they do, because they see that the job gives them development opportunities, completely matches with their qualification expectations, helps them to be themselves creative and innovative, and through this job they feel that they can contribute to the society. When it comes to the living conditions, the ability that participants have either to live on their own or to share their living with their parents, relatives, or rent a house, it is strange a little bit because although these people claim to have a good job and a high salary, 38% of them say that they have to rely on parents or relatives or on scholarships to make their living, versus 45% who say that they can afford living on their own. Only 8% of the respondents are in dilemma. They don't know if they can afford their living on their own or they can rely on family support. In terms of participation in social and political life, the graphs show that respondents are interested in politics. So they show a certain degree that they want to be involved. But on the other hand, the other graph shows that so far the participation of the youth in politics is very low. And this is linked with several aspects. When it comes to participation in social and community life, we see that the majority of participants say that they can have more impact on neighborhood rather than on local government units such as commune or municipality level.
And a very good point. This is our last slide, and people were asked about perception of environmental issues and particularly about global warming and climate change. It's necessary to mention that 100% knows this problem, and you can see just, that the worry of the respondents is also very high, at 29%, around 70% of the respondents are worried about it. But yes, we know, yes, we worry, but it will probably not impact our life in the future. That is the result, and it's quite a contradiction of versions. Like you can see a quotation: climate change will not affect us in 20-25 years from now, but maybe in 100 years later. Thus, neither me nor my kids will be impacted. And also, it's necessary to mention that nearly all of the participants have master's or bachelor degree.
Thank you very much. Finally, talking about these problems means that we are worried, right? And what should we do? That is the question that we are struggling and trying to answer in our project. So I'm invited the next expert, Alexander, who will briefly introduce the policy recommendations that we came up with in response to the problem that we've just been discussing. Please, Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you. In this case, I'm representing the youth and all of us. Although our questionnaire was applied to mostly MA students or people with PhDs or BA, which reflects indeed very positive view and optimistic view over the world, we do have the other data that shows that youth in general, overall around the world, or especially in our region, are not doing very well. And there are problems, and all problems are different in the countries. So the recommendations are quite general. We have 6 of them. And we hope that these recommendations are strong enough to be eventually incorporated in policies in various countries, of course, with a degree of flexibility. I'm going to just quickly run through them because we don't have much time. But one of them is to empower youth by facilitating participation, consultation sessions, and civic and political initiatives. We have youth policies in almost all of the countries, but they function differently. In some cases, there's no actual dialogue. That's what some countries need to focus on. Where there are no youth forums, these should be created. Concerning, one of the biggest problems that kept coming out in even in the questionnaires that we applied to the 37 people, is that the education curricula sometimes do not match with a job, or that people have jobs but they're not happy with it, and that's precisely because they do not work in the field that they trained for. So we have a set of recommendations for that too, including adjusting the curricula in a certain way, and job creations and favoring public education spending, encourage tertiary education, paid internships, number of career counseling and orientation sessions, and so on. The third recommendation concerns inclusion and fair access to the labor market. Youth is already a vulnerable category concerning work and finding a job when they just graduate. It doesn't matter which level. But it gets even more complicated when we talk about socially disadvantaged groups, when we talk about people with minority background or different different sexual orientation or women. I mean, they face discrimination, and it's very often they do not find a job precisely because of this characteristic. So we have a set of recommendations for that as well. And then increase and offer inclusive access to healthcare. Again, youth who graduate and do not find a job are pretty much without medical insurance. And that can have long-lasting effects on the long term, because we don't know how much unemployment lasts for. I mean, we do know, we have statistics, but it depends, right? And we would like to make sure that in all of the countries that we study, we have some sort of social protection, some sort of hand reaching out to the young people who do not have medical insurance, either from school or from work. And the last one, which is what you're seeing in front of you, we tried, we discussed, we debated, we tried to come up with an index that measures all of these problems. We tried to find indicators, we struggled with some of them. It's not a final index, it should work like a multidimensional poverty index. So the main is not to come up with one figure to measure the progress or the rapid regress in social sustainability for youth, but to come up with to highlight certain problems and I mean, if we have at least a couple of indicators showing problems in one dimension, because we have the 5 dimensions: health, environment, education, standard of living, participation, and
yes, please use your handout to see what.
So yeah, we have these 5 dimensions and indicators for each, and if several problems appear in at least 2 of these dimensions, we can consider that for that group we do not have, or we did not achieve social sustainability. Now, as I said, we wrote in the 3rd column the source where we got this indicator from. So we know that those are measurable, and we know that we can apply those, and we know that we can find data. And also, we are suggesting in the 4th column possible levels of data disaggregation. But now I invite you all, because as I said, it's not a final index, and we would like to maybe work on it, and we would like to hear your feedback. I don't know, try to pick up an indicator that you think is problematic. Let's try to discuss it, maybe. And yeah, these were the solutions, and I hope they're good, and I hope they could be implemented at some point.
Thank you very much. Well, we arrived to the end of our presentation, and we thank you for your attention. We still have this question: are we lost generation or retired? Yes, retired generation. Yes, we definitely see that we face all kinds of problems. Probably some of us are facing unemployment. Others who have employment might face a problem of not sufficient income, and all sorts of environmental health and educational problems. So I think that's a good step forward to solve these problems, and we hope that the question to this answer will be at some point, and the sooner the better, no, that we're not lost. So thank you very much, and we will be happy to see you.
Okay, comments, questions, reactions, petitions again. Petitions in favor.
Everything's so clear?
Please.
One question about the servers. I think one thing that you should have mentioned is that the server was absolutely not representative.
Yeah, it was it was pilot project. Pilot means that, yeah, we tried, it's just a small sample.
Or we could kind of say it was a survey of, well, experience of young people who studied in summer learning programs. That's why 100% are happy with education, 100% know about environment and climate change.
But that also shows something. It shows that people who have the opportunity to go abroad, get scholarships, have good education, are generally finding a job easier and are generally happy and content about their life.
Yes,
and the assumption that we interviewed those who are in the summer school is wrong.
We admit the limitation of this survey. We mentioned it in the paper. Of course, it's not the most representative group of people, right? But I think it does give us information, or at least we can conclude what do the people with the MA, BAs, and PhDs feel. And we see that what their replies confirm is the worries that raised by the ILO, that people cannot see their future even though they have higher education. and so on and so forth. If you would like, you can go into some more details in the paper, but I do think that we really confirmed some of the kind of theoretical underpinning of this youth and unemployment in terms of austerity, and that's why we think that this survey is not absolutely useless. But thanks for your remark.
Also another addition, it's not just participants in the summer school, because we applied online surveys as well for people who live in their own country.
As well as I put this kind of features of summer learning program and their friends.
Sorry?
And their friends.
And our friends. Our friends. But I mean, these are people or young people who live in their own countries having, I don't know, their own problems or no problems. But, okay, yeah, we're not trying to say that it's, the best or representative group, but
it's just not the end, it's just the beginning of how we have to conduct it, and many things which came here were new to us. So probably when we improvise it, we would want to include those things.
Okay, let's...
Actually, I think it's a good way of showing how we can manipulate the data. But anyway, I wanted to ask about something different, because you also, when you said about unemployment, in Hungary it was 25 or 26%, then in Kazakhstan was only 6%, Ukraine 7%. And there was the question of austerity, question mark, no. So can you explain actually why there is no unemployment, what cases, and actually why Hungary is a better developed country than, for example, Ukraine or Kazakhstan?
No, but you have to see that 15, 24 is 13, because this age group were divided in our statistical. That's why you have to combine the 13% with 7, so in general it means 20.
It's still 6. So
well, Kazakhstan is great because no unemployment.
Sorry, what's the question? We can do some reason actually why there is like a bigger unemployment or smaller unemployment. Like what makes the difference between those countries and well-developed countries? For example, in Spain there is like 30% of youth unemployment. Yes. Why? Do you find it?
Well, just all the have selected countries now, and in Spain it's not included. Each country, the EU countries, just a different picture. But it's not that all EU countries are under.
And the difference between the statistics is that EU countries, and that's why they have bigger problems, and that's why they have austerity measures, because we didn't prove this because we didn't have time to get into this in detail. But what came out is that EU countries are generally more connected to the global economy. So obviously they were immediately affected by the crisis, and they had to, from higher levels, have austerity measures, whereas the other countries did not have, and they dealt with it differently. Crisis didn't affect them too much or that much, and so that's why you have different
I can say one quotation from Moldovan respondent. He said, Moldova is not so much integrated into international economy, that's why we didn't see anything.
And actually it was not our task to understand what causes this unemployment, because we know that it can be economical reasons, like structural mismatch between skills, inflexibility of labor market, and a lot of different things actually can cause unemployment. Okay? So we are only talking about what is the effect of austerity of this economic crisis on unemployment.
Yeah, just a small addition to what Vlad just said. We discussed this issue a lot during the preparation of the paper, and the interesting thing that we came to is that the crisis per se and the austerity measures could increase the unemployment. But what is revealed, I think, by this crisis is the more structural problems in the economy, of the world economy, or the economy of each country, or in its social structure, which were exacerbated kind of by the crisis. Like, for example, it's now obvious that there is a huge mismatch between the education and the number of graduates in some spheres and the labor demand, like the demand of the labor market. And this has not started with the crisis, it started before. So I think that explains why some countries experience higher unemployment, some lower, but it's not it's not a comprehensive explanation. So yes, definitely. And the last thing, it was not the point of the research. So probably we should close this.
But turn the camera towards you so that you can.
Okay, guys. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm running a company, and what you are talking hear about this mismatch. I don't know this is mismatch. I know what is miss and I what is match. But look, first of all, now it's hard times. Demand is declining, and they try to keep people employed. But these youngsters, they are not coming to work, and they come to work, they are absolutely useless. Because they have no skills, they can do nothing in my company. And I need plumbers, not these MA fancy certificates graduates. And I saw them sipping beer on the corner, and they don't want to do something. And after that, they complain, we are lost generation. They lost in themselves.
But their expectations were not to be a plumber, probably, but to be a super diplomat, a financial broker, or whatever. And now their
I don't care. I have no people to do plumber job.
One of our recommendations was...
What's the question?
Where are they lost? They lost in themselves.
Yes.
You said that it comes to your company and it's useless because it doesn't have skills. So we come back to the skills again. And in one of our recommendations, we said, yes, we do want to invest in tertiary education, vocational schools too, paid internships in all of these fields, and inclusive labor market. What we meant and green growth is that we create jobs for both high-level educated people, like for example research, which is decreasing in Romania. Seriously, it's really bad. They all go because there are no jobs. So on one hand, we invest in that area, creating jobs there. On the other hand, the low-skilled ones, because yes, they usually, no one really wants to take those jobs because they're not valued in the society. But if we have policies concerning and targeting specifically that problem, we could, bring up this sector of plumbers and, I don't know, locksmiths, and it's all a matter of perception.
Come on, we need plumbers, not recommendations.
Sorry?
We need plumbers, not recommendations.
That's what I'm saying. That's investing in that as well.
Looking at your point, this is where we can see the gap, where we can find employment for people who are not employed. And taking your recommendation further, I think we look into these aspects of not just having higher education or trained people at the higher level, but even people who can do jobs like plumber or some other.
I have a question to Mikhail.
Sorry,
Let's cut the short. I don't want to cut the short discussion. Simply, we are a little bit losing the steam, and I want also to cut few minutes. No, I think it's very important because not what I would say. This discussion and this presentation, because it is revealing a lot of topics and issues which we will be addressing hopefully in the next presentation, because the issue is very much cross-sectoral. And let me start first from the criticism, so that the good things come later on. I was a little bit lost at a certain point. Are you going to go into the show business, or are you going to go into serious research? So you try to combine both, but somehow it was a little bit detached, the two dimensions of this. Both are good, but needs to be somehow better to integrate. I don't agree with the survey criticism. Any survey can be criticized, of course. Nobody claims that it is representative, and I really contribute to the idea that you decided that you need to do this and did this. So I'm happy to see this. Let me come with to the definition of youth. One thing which I was expecting, hoping to see, but did not, and maybe it's not your fault, simply it is not somehow popular. A young person is a person with ideas and with energy. That's it. It doesn't matter if it's 19 or 15 or 29. It's something. I'm sorry. It doesn't qualify, and this is, I think, structural problem. Neither the institutions which are existing, which are supposed to deal with young issues, young people's issues, are not approaching this from the perspective of ideas, energy, willingness to do something, liveliness. You can continue this, because when you reach the age of, I don't know, 60, 70, it's changing now, because with so many investment in gerontology, maybe we will have very vivid old guys at the age of 90 soon. This is very, very important. Another problem which is somehow touched but not directly, and I recommend you to address this in the future, is the relationship between the generations. A friend of mine who is very popular Bulgarian political scientist, he is really good in metaphors, recently said that our generation will never have the chance to stop working, and the generation of our children will never have the chance to start a job. I mean, we will never retire, and they will never go to work. And if you think from this perspective, just from this metaphor, how does it translate into real policy mechanisms and real life? It is really serious, because constantly we tend to look and run for the ongoing priorities, which employment now, incomes now, household stability now, because elections are looming and so on, and future generations don't vote to have this. But at the end of the day, most of those reforms are in fact fitting into this metaphor. And I think this is very dangerous because nobody is really addressing this cross-generational issues. Austerity and all this related stuff. Let's not forget, it's not just about lack of resources, it's not just about the developed world which somehow lost momentum and has a crisis. It's about globalization. Because for the first time in history, the opportunity and the space for arbitraging differences is declining. I mean, this is something which, in physics, you know the concept of entropy and increasing the entropy. So hot and cold places tend to be equally not warm. So in the sense of economy, areas, countries, societies which are high income, rich, developed, and on the other hand, the other extreme, the extremes are getting closer. So this is a fundamental crisis for the developed world, and this is the source of austerity. Simply, there are people who are really competing for the jobs here. Let's face it, and the societies are not able to transform themselves because it needs to be some kind of inflicted pain. And this is also related to the expectations. One of the reasons why they cannot transform is that their level of aspirations or idea of normality is totally flawed. Normality for many people, young people in Europe, or Central Europe, or Western Europe, is different from normality in other countries. And how to bring this together, maybe just with opening borders, opening access, communicating, and all this stuff. But then there is another risk which I have seen personally. I have another friend of mine who was a totally different area, who was hiring a person, shop assistant, and there were applications online, everything. Can you imagine how much can a person demand as a starting point without having even finished any high school degree? It was 6 times the average salary in the country. 6 times. Why? Because the person that I want to have in my life. These 2 mobile phones, 3 laptops, and based on this is the calculation. For that person, the sum is, I want this. So nobody's planning, and I think this is notorious in many education systems, nobody's planning the other way around, bottom up, everything is planned top down. So how do you propose this to reflect in the educational system? It is something which I'm very much interested in the future. Otherwise, last comment, the press conference of the ministers of the different countries.
All women?
It is really,
Okay.
it was really good. And I would even develop it if you would be doing another presentation. Because it was a good opportunity to present the different thinking and the different illusions or mentalities, which as a result shape up the entire framework in which your issues are reflected. So to summarize, thank you, great work. We slightly finalize this to be really a great outline just to reflect those missing pieces, and I'm looking forward to reading your report.
Thank you very much.
Я про intergeneration говорила проблемы, но они почему-то не стали моих воплощать. Прекрасно.
Okay, next. Which group is next? A or G? Which group is next?
A wanted to be last.
A. C.
B you just had.
You just had B. Okay, maybe we should have started with C because it is
sustainable.
Economy is everything. Something.
Миша, может, пока выключить? Пусть идет одним.
Что, брейк может быть идет?
Ну, давайте еще одних пропустим потом, потому что иначе они сейчас все рассосутся. Did you make one copy of this book?
Yes, I will bring it. Okay, wait for me. I will bring it because I printed it, but I forgot to bring it.
We're waiting for the presentation. For the presentation. We don't have it. Really? We didn't. I saw it. Again, my PC. What? The presentation right here. Yeah, I told you in my lab. Really, what or who we are calculating for? Kiev. And Kasia.
And Kasia.
So we are
Okay, maybe you could start with introduction what we will be talking about, or what you're waiting for.
But it's on the other.
Gedra is bringing the presentation slides. So it's copying, but it takes 14 minutes.
Yes.
Or otherwise, I don't need to.
Because I'm following online. Looking at the presentation.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What's about you?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I stopped concentrating. Do you want some help?
Just 15 minutes downstairs. 14.
So, is one
Good morning to everybody once again. We are Group C and now we would like to present our presentation. So from TV show, welcome to the high level conference. Our topic today is economy and sustainability. What is the meaning of sustainable development in times of austerity?
The outline, the introduction that I will introduce it, and I will give the floor to the three pillars of sustainable development during times of austerity. The economic pillar will be presented by the three of us. The social pillar will be presented by Dora and Kasha, and the environmental pillar will be presented by Fabio and Jamie. And the conclusion by all of us. The introduction, what does it mean, austerity? There are different definitions of austerity. I will read some of them, not all of them. It's about severity of an attitude. The second, it will be extreme simplicity of style or appearance. And the third one, austerity stands for condition characterized by severity. And some other explanation define austerity as an economic policy for which a government reduces the amount of money it spends by a large amount. So austerity is a choice by the government in general. What about our, concerning our work is the three pillar of sustainable development, namely economic, social and environmental dimension, are equally important and complement each other. So sustainable development should consist in balance of these three aspects. How it affects our daily life, so we'll go through each dimension and the challenges for which we have been trying to find solution at each level, at each dimension. And I'll give the floor to the other to find the solution with
So first of all, we would like to start with the economic pillar. As most of you have noticed, from economic perspective, what the governments do firstly, they raise taxes and they cut budgets. So but we think that lowering taxes also can be the a sustainable way of economic growth, but not just cut budget. It's not the only solution. So we think that. And we state as our hypothesis that budget cuts as the only economic approach to austerity is not sustainable in the long run. And we believe that there are other measures that can be taken instead of measures that our government cuts expecting fast effect. And we see that these approaches as firefighting instead of long term. So we have some challenges in economic pillar. So what challenges do we see? First of all, it's limited resources. As you all know, no money, high taxes, low income. So what we do next? Then we think that what does efficient government stimulus and how we define efficiency? It means that how actual government still can help to the society to live better, and even if there is no money, there are some serious and clever stimulus can help. And employment, how it should come from, and where could people actually find the employment possibilities. Economic structure and the demand, which are the destination markets. Is it possible another consumption boost, and is it possible economically and actually from a sustainable point of view, do we really need another consumption boost? Some more challenges. What about internal redistribution? Do we have space and reserves to do so? Shadow economy? So you see that all these questions brings a lot of ideas how we should do what policy proposals actually should be, and how the new economic cycle should look like. And what about diversification? We are very stuck in our small boxes and small lives, trying to find solutions, and just instead of finding them, we just come into vicious cycle and we cannot go out of this. So our aim in at least economic part and overall in all parts, how can we go beyond budget cuts? So what solutions we do provide? Firstly, we think that efficient government stimulus should and can provide a good basis for, as a starting point to go out of austerity and recessions. For example, Spain has provided the deepest public cuts for a generation, freezing public sector salaries, reduction of spending on health and education were the first areas that were hit. As we saw from the previous TV program, it's not really sustainable. So these are coming back to our challenges: employment, where it should come from, this new structure of economic demand, and another consumption boost. First of all, we should start from the beginning. What we mean by efficiency. Efficiency, in our perspective, is to meet its ability to make and to maximum results with minimum resources, or in other words, maximum desired effects with no waste of resources. So wise government spending can actually create jobs, and since there are available labor market and comparatively low interest rates, implement some projects that are really helpful to and useful for society actually should be implemented. Furthermore, there are possibility that mutual interest and it could be the source of formal unemployment instead of informal. Second solution is progressive taxation system and approach of shadow economy. As you all know, progressive taxation system actually, first of all, attempt to distribute and redistribute resources, in the sense that instead of increasing taxes to everybody, we just increase to those who are rich and who have more resources. Because if we implement VAT, increase of the VAT tax, it affects greatly all levels of society. Approach of shadow economy can be another solution for in terms of taxes, because in some countries like in Armenia, informal economy was counted for more than 20-25% of GDP. Therefore, there is a huge resources to increase revenues and also to bring people to formal job market. Moreover, economic diversification can be another choice. In many countries of the region, as we can see, some extremely local areas, they basically rely on one or only few very restricted economic activities. For example, like we saw some regions, some rely only on energy production, some on food, and at the end of the day, if the fluctuations in the market change rapidly, they actually cannot go out because they are stuck. So we think that economic diversification can provide, can decrease vulnerability for the countries who are stuck in the same economic activity, and to provide the people who have maybe different education, different skills, different qualification to find a job. Maybe you're a bad lawyer, but you can be a very good economist. Maybe you're a good engineer or mechanic, but you're not good in accountancy. Therefore, more people would be brought. So as you can see here, all our solutions actually affects other areas. For example, if there are efficient government stimulus, it affects, in terms of employment, it affects a lot of social aspects because we reduce social risk and people who are in marginality, we bring up from a social perspective, we bring up in the market. Furthermore, if the stimulus are made with long-term perspective, they also can help to the environment, as there can be some investments in renewable resources. Moreover, if we make and adopt a progressive taxation system, from social point of view, people have possibility and from the shadow economy and shadow activities to come in the formal jobs. There is also social security. From an environmental point of view, indirectly, it can, first and foremost, affect those who are rich, so actually we decrease their possibilities to spend on luxurious goods. Therefore, indirectly, such activities as often flights or going to play golf in nice areas will be reduced. Therefore, there will be less cutted trees and lower greenhouse emissions included. Therefore, we indirectly also help the environment. In terms of economic diversification, we also provide, again, employment. We understand that employment was actually related in all three provided solutions, but actual employment does really matter because people need job, they need income, they need to grow as professionals. And if we diversify economy and, for example, instead of doing some activities with a high energy consumption and that are actually use a lot of energy, we can also start thinking about green jobs opportunities or social enterprises. So as you see, there are a lot of solutions, but what we want to highlight is the importance of integrated measures, not just do one but not do other. If you do like this, it's again just firefighting. So now we come to the more social aspects.
So, thank you. Actually, we here in the social pillar is facing a very difficult situation because we have to provide a lot of services that are very expensive, cost a lot of money for the state, but yet have a very serious impact on the everyday life of people. So we are under pressure to cut our expenses, and we are facing very difficult dilemmas. I mean, as was outlined by Vlad at one of the first days, shall we choose the stupid or the sick? And we can add some more dilemmas. What shall we do with the elderly? Shall we go back just the old Spartanian rule and liquidate them? And what shall we do with social benefits, unemployment allowances? So there are all these lazy people who don't want to work. What shall we do with them? So actually we think we have to take into the consideration all the aspects that affect people's life and well-being, and we would like to think before we cut and not cut before we think. So I think this is one aspect where good governance comes in, and we try to identify solutions that are cost-effective, meaning that we have the available budget, so we cannot spend more, but we shall spend a little bit less. But still within this financial framework we can provide more effective solutions, and we do not have to choose between the stupid and the sick and throughout the elderly and the unemployed. So our hypothesis was that if we do it like this way, following this method of good governance, actually austerity can be an opportunity to rationalize social expenditures, and actually it's also an opportunity to implement long-awaited reforms in the region, because some of the structures both in Central Eastern Europe and the CIS region remain intact since the transition. So I think that many areas of social services we really do need this reform, and maybe this will be this pressure on us will be an opportunity to implement these reforms. What has been already mentioned in the economic section, what is a short-term gain on the budgetary side might fire back on the long run. and actually it leads to deteriorating human capital. This is something we would not like to see, because then from financial debt we will enter into a social debt, and we try to identify solutions to tackle this problem. And one of the main questions we had, that whether the current European social model is sustainable or not, and we think it is not. I think in this region it's not an option that the state provides all the services without involving any actors, because the people are not ready to pay more taxes, they are just not able to do so, and on the other end these are very expensive services. So we have to find some other actors, and we have to find the entry points for them.
Yeah, and then there's another question, which is a horizontal linkage to other areas, because of course social pillar is not the only one that affects the state. So we were thinking what actually are the linkage between the social pillar and the economic and environmental one. So when we take the economic, of course the first one is very, very obvious, and Dora already mentioned it, like lack of resources, cause lack of funds for social sector, yes. That's pretty obvious. But then, from other side, lack of investments into the social sector cause longer stagnation and lack of development. We cannot develop without smart, intelligent people, yes? For example, we cannot develop if we don't invest into education. So that's the thing that actually needs to find some kind of balance. And then environment. We know that we probably one day achieve our final, yes, point, and our globe can say that, sorry, I cannot produce more. So actually that's a question, yes. In time of austerity, usually poor society lose interest in environmental protection. Austerity can lead to suspensions of investment into renewable energy, for example. Which means that actually we can come back to the old solutions for higher exploration or actually unpredictable economies. We can go to this typical economy which is based on just on growth, instead of going into those 3 pillars based economy. But going back to just details, because of course it's impossible to find a solution for everything within the social pillar, so we divided it. And the first question is the education, because it seems to be actually one of the most important parts of the social pillar. And the question is, what is the aim of education? And then the second, is the current education system in the region effective? For example, we have a lot of, especially after the Soviet Union, in the countries which usually education was based mostly on knowledge, but people don't learn any skills. How can we make the current education system more effective? And shall it be maintained by state? Or maybe there are any other actors who can ensure and who can provide education more effective? And then how to ensure that education reduces and not increase existing inequalities. So that's actually our main questions, and then we try to find solutions. So the first solution is to reduce skill mismatch and promote lifelong learning program. Usually teacher at school said, you are learning for your life, but actually how long can we learn, yes? And is it only about getting knowledge, or it's also about getting skills? So of course maybe the country can spend a lot of money for higher education, for universities or secondary schools, but maybe the schools are not effective because they are not preparing students to live their life. And I think that, especially for example, such countries like Poland, Hungary, they're struggling with this problem that we have right now a lot of educated, well-educated people who cannot get a job. And we need, and then we have like, and we cannot find the workers who, for example, can paint the room, yes, or to renovate So the first is to reduce mismatch. Then we should focus on skills and empowerment. That's actually, and then the mixed system. It depends from the region. Of course, there's no single solution. But we should think, for example, in Great Britain, the education is on very high level. The same in the US, but it's of course not in our region. Why? Because it's compared to systems, the private one and the public one. So maybe we should, in the post-Soviet countries, the education is still based on the public sector. Maybe we should mix those systems. Maybe it can make the education more effective, but of course much more expensive for students.
And here from youth, we are going for the elderly generation, and actually it's a huge problem in the region because countries are aging. In Europe, it is due to decreasing fertility rate, but in some countries of the CIS region, it is due to high migration rate. But still, we are facing the problem, which is also a problem for the state, but also for the individuals, that there are more elderly people whom we shall finance and whom we shall take care of. So at the state level, it is in the pension systems and also in healthcare, and also in individual level, it's an increased burden of the family, both from a financial point of view because pensions are very low, but also from a social point of view because they have to take care of the elderly. So actually, before I go for the region, I just wanted to say something, which is a very famous quotation from the Dalai Lama. Man, he sacrifices health in order to make money, then sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And why I wanted to say this, because when it comes to pension system, it is very important that in what condition pensioners or the elderly generation will be and how it all relates. We will also address here whether the pension system should be a state-maintained pension system, a one-pillar pension system, or should other actors also be involved. And the solutions we suggested is promoting a healthy lifestyle, meaning not just like you eat healthy, but we were thinking like a little bit different. Going away slowly from this consumption base, as Christina mentioned, rushing and rushing and rushing and just sacrificing our health for earning more money and then sacrificing the money to recuperate health. So we were thinking in some kind of mental changes that would underpin a healthy lifestyle and not so much government propaganda. Promoting active aging, it also implies actually healthy lifestyle is a precondition to be an active elderly. And it implies, of course, staying active longer in the labor market, hopefully not taking away from the younger generation. But it also implies staying active longer in the private life, and I think grandparents have a very, very important role to play also in family life. And we are suggesting a two-pillar system because pension is also something I think the state cannot afford to offer entirely. So we think that a mix of private pension funds and state pension system in some variation could be a viable solution. And healthcare, how to ensure the good quality and equal health service in time of austerity. Here also should be the state the only provider of healthcare or any other actors. And how to address, if we are talking about health reforms in the region, there is a public fear from the reform of the healthcare system, fearing from switching from the Soviet model, which provided quite a high quality healthcare service on a rather equal manner, from a US model that is very unequal. And we thought that there are, between these two extremes, there are some room for maneuver, and we here also suggested to promote, to focus more on prevention. and also implement reform. Prevention, it's also like in the environmental pillar, prevention is always cheaper. It's cheaper, but also it has very severe individual benefits. It's not good to be sick. It's always better to be healthy. And being sick puts also a burden on the family, both in terms of finance and also in terms of taking care of sick family members. And it also has some economic disadvantages, since the ones who are sick are dependent on the state and cannot work. There are a lot of concrete measures that could be taken, but just to mention a few examples: medical checkups, or again promoting this healthy lifestyle, and also creating the kind of social structure that allows to live a little bit healthier life. In many countries, hospital care is something that is favored instead of daycare, even if it's not justified for medical reasons, and this is a very expensive practice. So we also propose to switch from hospital care to daycare whenever it is possible from a medical point of view, and involve other actors. I mean, in the region, before the communist era, it had known tradition in many countries that the church provided very good health services. So maybe it's one option to re-involve religious bodies to provide these services, and also create a kind of mostly state-run, but still in some parts privatized system, in which private insurance companies can provide extra services. For example, services that are now available through correcting the medical staff, like staying in one room or choosing one particular doctor, and or outsourcing services that can be provided in a more efficient manner by private companies. And the tax should be reinvested in healthcare, so it really can undergo the reform it should be. And the involvement of medical staff is very important to implement efficiently. Social benefits. Sorry? Okay. Okay. So basically, that's the question: what to do with unemployment allowances. It costs a lot of money. It creates social tensions between those who work for a little wage and those who just receive unemployment benefits. And also for the individuals, it has a lot of disadvantage, dependency on the state agency, and staying out of the labor market, long-term unemployment. So here the solutions suggested. There are a lot of countries where they implement public work programs, but which we believe doesn't really address many of the challenges. So establish private public work programs involving the private sector. Social corporates could be a good chance or a good solution for way out, and local government engagement.
And last one actually part is a good governance, and very briefly, because we are running out of time. In the time of austerity, the country has it's very tempting for this national government to centralize the administration, yes, because they feel that, okay, now we need to provide some services, we need to go through the austerity, so they decide to centralize the administration. And so is it a good solution or not? And can local government be more effective and respond in time of austerity? And how to ensure, and then another question is, of course, how to ensure budget efficiency, transparency, accountability, lack of corruption, rule of law, and so on in the time of austerity. And the last one is what's the role of international organization in that moment. And solutions suggested. First of all, decentralization. We can see, for example, Hungarian case and other. Hungarian state was one of the fastest developing country, but then in time of austerity, the government decided to centralize the administration, and from that moment, actually Hungary developing much slower compared to the neighbors in time of austerity. From other side, all those post-Soviet republics in Central Asia, like Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, they never become democratic, they never become decentralized, which actually, and the level of development is a little bit lower than those, for example, like Balkan states, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and Czechs. So we can think about it. And anyway, at the local level, it's much easier to cooperate with civil society and private sector
sector. During the whole course, we said that civil society and private sector is extremely important for development, so actually local government is much more effective. And international cooperation, of course, international, there's need some platform for discussion and solution. Okay, because they're
just 2 slides. We've got just 3 slides, so.
Yeah, we have like 10 pages of notes.
No worries. Okay, to go green, it costs money. And in time of austerity, money is exactly what you like. So, nonetheless, I think that austerity, since you have got to go green anyway, encourage to take more economically effective decisions that leads to enhancement of environmental sustainability. What does it mean? That is, if you want to go green, you've got to foster green growth. You've got to find out the efficient way to go green. You've got to find a way that grows the economy itself. First slide is out. Second slide. These are the challenges that you face when you've got to go green. Some of the challenges that you face when you want to go green, but you've got not much money. Okay? First, you will be facing maybe a lack or a decrease of investment in renewable energy. Why? Because renewable energy sector is heavily reliant on public spending and therefore on subsidies. And if subsidies are not there, the public money is not there. Okay? As a consequence, in the time of austerity, it is likely and highly possible that government will be cut subsidies, and as a consequence, the private investor as well would get out of the sector, and as a consequence as well, the GHG emissions will be increasing. This is happening in Italy. Last year we adopted a law which just helped the rate of subsidies going through the renewable sector, and as a consequence as well, the private sector stopped investing in this. How to overcome the likely decreasing green good consumption? Usually green goods are more expensive than brown goods, and it is as well likely that consumers in austerity will switch from green goods to brown goods, or at least to goods which cost less. And usually the goods which cost the less are the goods which less internalize environmental costs. Third challenge.
Okay, the third challenge is on the waste management. So how to ensure that funds that we have today are being spent for proper waste management and avoid slipping into unsustainable but cheap practices. Over the last 2 weeks, we have talked a lot about how we are having more and more production and more consumption. Yeah? As a result, there is huge waste problem. Now let me, I like analogies, so let me ask you, what do you see in this picture? I mean, not picture, from here, hard to say. But right now you should know what this is.
Money.
Okay.
500 forints.
500 forints. Now imagine that one side of this is production and consumption, right? The other side is waste. Just imagine. So for instance, I cover up, yeah, and it's only from one side there is money, from the other side there is just blank paper. Will I be able to buy anything with it in the cafeteria downstairs? Will they accept it?
No.
No, yeah, because it will become fake, basically.
Yes.
So what we are lacking, the major challenge is this, kind of integrated and balanced way of thinking, that it's no longer just about consumption and production. If we don't care about this side, yeah, in the long term, the decisions we take now will not be effective tomorrow. Yeah? We will not have intergenerational equity. And of course, the progress that we achieve today might lead to regress tomorrow.
Okay. These are some solutions that we have, let's say, singled out from many possible, which in a way try to integrate the lack of resources and the need for increasing consumption of green goods, consumption on energy produced by renewable sources, and the like. So we just singled out 3. We have got many more in the paper, and we would like just to explain them very, very briefly. Green public procurement. Green public procurement is a process whereby public authorities procure goods, services, and works in a way that somehow decrease their ecological footprint. Why this is viable? This is viable according to the European Commission because the money you have got to spend more for green products indeed is not that much. Out of 9 sectors, which are the main sector the public authorities procure from, namely energy, electricity, catering, and the like, just in 2 cases you have got a real increase in expenditure, and never more than 10%. In 4 cases, you've got a very, very little significant increase in expenditure, between 1 and 2%, and in the other 3 cases, namely constructions, which are a very important headline in the public expenditure, you have a slight decrease up to 10%. And it is as well an environmental solution. I mean, it is a way to promote green goods and green services, since in the Euro area and in the European Union at all, and in the CIS as well, the public procurement amounts to up 21% of the GDP. Therefore, if you can mobilize this amount of money and capital, you will mobilize one of the most important driving forces in the market. You will create a demand for green goods and green services and green works, and therefore you will be moving toward a more sustainable pattern of consumption and production. Leveraging tax, oh, by the way, you've got also direct environmental benefits like CO2 reduction, up to 100% actually in the case of paper procurement. Then you've got leveraging taxes on energy intense or carbon intense luxury goods and services, which at the same time allow the state budget to gain in revenues, since you are raising the tax, and at the same time to make a change in consumption behavior, as you are promoting a more sustainable consumption. This is to be taken very, very carefully, because you are going to tax a good, and therefore you are at risk to somehow depress the consumption of that good, and therefore it should be the ultimate end should not be to revenue to raise the additional revenue, but to convince or to help the producers to adopt more sustainable production patterns. We go to the 3
and finally, the waste management issue. We propose 2 possible solutions. The first one is the 3R policy. 3R stands for reduce, reuse, and recycle. Reduce, what is reduce? It means, well, we are actually reducing the amount of waste production by increasing the efficient lifespan of a product. Yeah? In fact, basically, we extend the useful life of products and then increase the efficiency of resource use in general. We reuse by, after proper management, after proper treatment, then we can engage in reusing the products instead of just throwing them away and forget for good. And recycling, yeah, we all know what recycling stands for. One example of it is the case of the city of Hong Kong. In 2004 alone, basically the city produced 20.5 million tons of waste, which accounted for 42% of total waste produced. And after effective governmental measures, basically what they did is they reused the waste produced from 37 to 80% in public filling areas. So this is something that could be adopted to promote efficient and proper waste management. The second part that we wanted to offer is the integrated reporting, environmental reporting, or in general, to make environmental performance reporting part of integrated reporting in general. What we offer is, as you know, there are a lot of listed companies that come to different respective countries to engage in investment activities. So if we do require those listed companies to report on the budget categories on waste management, waste production, and all the policies that they adopt, for instance, including the budget items, the money they spend on waste management, then we can ensure transparency. There are a number of organizations working in this field, like there's Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, and there are many more associations of gold mining companies that are dealing with it. But how much of it is window dressing and how much of it is for real? Yeah? We want to make sure that this is not a simple, just window dressing, but in fact that here we have an integrated, environmental performance reporting, which will allow not only the public but also the community, but also the civil society and the government to see what these companies are doing and how they may be held accountable in case of possible distortions or problems.
So, waiting for the conclusions. We are pretty sure that all of you remember this nice picture. But what we are offer as a conclusion is that actually that sustainable part that we all aim for, and we believe that our solutions bring that, and from small it expands to all three pillars, and that sustainable part actually will get more covered, not just a small triangle somewhere in the middle of the world. And it has to be understood that as we are not connected with as we cannot be disconnected from our parents and from our children, the same, we are connected in the three pillars. Therefore, we have to aim for integrated solutions and not just to see different things and not to dream different parts of the elephant with closed eyes or open eyes. The matter is to see the whole picture and the whole world. And good governance really matters. So, thank you very much.
So, comments, questions, thank you. By the way, I must say honestly, so that you don't. I was mentioned as a tutor in the beginning. I mean, I have seen this for the first time, and I learned very interesting things. Commenting. So I was deliberately trying not to pose my whatever imprint or. So don't be afraid to present. Don't affect your grades. Come on, guys, what are that? Please.
There is a constant thought in my mind, but I don't know how to put a question about it. You were mentioning the economic diversification, and the first thing that comes when you think about our region is the countries, so-called resource-first countries, and the question how to overcome it, which is probably not possible to answer here. But I don't know, in your research, did you probably you went to the level of countries. Do you have anything to add?
I can add an example.
In the region, in the resource-rich countries.
Thank you very much for the comment. Actually, since the time scarcity, we were not going into examples, but we have a very good example of Armenia that Liana will be more than happy to tell you.
For example, about the economy of Armenia, we had the economy which depends on mining mostly, but in recent years the IT technologies are growing rapidly, and now we have like two of these main sectors, so it's an alternative to mining. It's now not dependent only on mining, but there are like some level of employment also in IT industry, so IT does not require so much resources, but still is a way of diversification.
Yeah, and it involves more human and different human.
Was there some kind of, sorry, the mining sector, what was the reaction of the development sector?
There were resources, but it was not the diversification. Mining was before the diversification, economy was depending on mining sector mainly. But after, for the example, we wrote about the diversification and took the example of IT technology. So ITs are developing.
I think it's also the transfer in generations and the skills match, and that how can we educate
people, and actually what can do with the mariners who's been working for example 15 years in a mining coal company, and just how can they teach some skills. Especially about resistance from the resource sector. You can.
Well,
It's pretty much clear.
Okay. Well, usually, if you are a rich country, you have some kind of sovereign fund for investment. Okay, this fund would be supposed to help you diversify your economy, which does not mean to reduce the power of the sector you are relying on because you are diversifying. This means that you are adding new pillars to your strengths, to your economy. And the very problem here is how to have good governance of these funds, how to prevent that these funds, which are actually using the money coming from the extractive industry, for instance, are not be used to invest overseas, but are used in a way that can actually provide a local development. Okay, Timor-Leste is pretty much a good practice on this. It is a very rich, oil-rich country, and they're using it also to using the revenues to diversify their internal domestic economy.
But if you propose this as a solution, I'm still not sure how does it work. I mean, the diversification of, coming with the IT sector, did that happen naturally, and people having an interest and the sector developing based on that? Was it pushed from the government? How do you implement it as a solution if you want to get diversified?
May I respond very briefly? There is no universal pattern in that. Different countries provide different examples. One extreme option is to wait for the sector to collapse entirely. You have rampant unemployment, social crisis, blah, blah, blah. And then anything which is an alternative is very feasible and very attractive. The other option is somehow to push and have economic mechanisms to encourage that transformation earlier. And it is related to the, I think it was Balash who was mentioning it, regarding sustainable development path. Whatever the options we will reach, very low carbon footprint in 100 years. The point is how? Will it be a very rough ride or something more moderate? And this is the same with the sector. Some countries are a little bit more advanced in forward-looking policies, some less. It depends very much on the policies and the governments in individual countries. Don't have a blueprint in this case, unfortunately. Other questions, please.
You mentioned one suggestion, possible suggestion or solution, how to reduce mismatch between, let's say, high education of, let's say, you lawyer or economist and demand on the labor market. So people maybe need plumber or people who repair a room, and you offered the solution lifelong learning. Don't you think that lifelong learning in fact will bring the opposite thing, that people will get another education and they will have more and more ambitions to get much of a better job?
Actually, the solution was different at the beginning. Our solution was, because the time was limited and we couldn't put everything in the presentation, but the solution for that was, for example, we can it was also connected with this private education and public. For example, should students pay fee? So, for example, we have too many psychologists. So maybe if you want to study psychology, you need to pay fee. But we need IT as professionals. So then we provide some scholarship for those who are going to study IT or who wants to study physics or maths and so on. So actually, how can we provide some resources for these sectors that actually we need at the level of higher education? Yes. Shall we provide the free education? Should it be just totally private? Or maybe we can balance it and just choose those sectors which we really need and put some scholarships, some special possibilities into this sector. So that was actually our solution.
Just one more answer to your question, that it doesn't necessarily mean higher education. I mean, getting another PhD, it can be a vocational training. If you have too many plumbers, then go and, I don't know, learn how to be a smith, whatever. So it's not, you should not think only in higher education level.
The concept of lifelong learning is interesting for other two dimensions. First, the idea behind is that the economic dynamics is so increasing and the diversity is so increasing that sector-specific orientation doesn't work. The previous systems were very static in that regard. You were completing education in one area and you were all, most of your life, what you have learned in your 20s. That's it. But now it is very much changing. So sector-specific doesn't work, and the winning strategies is to combine different sectors and multi how you call them, multi-professional,
Multidimensional.
even yes,
Multidisciplinary.
Approaches, and this is also related to the need for some diversification of services, because we cannot expect that with increased productivity globally, we will have the pool of future labor force involved in manufacturing. Manufacturing is declining, and the sector of services is increasing. So what should be those services? Most probably, and this is the hypothesis behind it, those should be knowledge-oriented and knowledge and learning targeted. Of course, the point is what kind of knowledge, what kind of learning, and all these mechanisms, free or not free, payments, or to what extent to prevent this learning just for the sake of alternative of being out of job or not employed. This is a little bit part of the details, but the concept is that changing realities require changing ourselves in terms of skills.
Yes, okay, thank you very much for a very informative presentation. I also had a question on education, it was pretty much covered. Another question on decentralization. If I understood it right, like you don't believe really that each country can adopt this policy, decentralization? Like, do you think it is possible to implement, for example, in Ukraine, and if yes or no, please explain. What is your opinion?
No, I believe that it's possible to implement. I think it's like, for me, it's much easier to implement decentralization than democratization. Because even if we, and I think it's more political correct to talk about decentralization, because then we concentrate on actually human development, on people, yes, on regional issues. We are not talking about the international policy, so maybe it will be much easier to decentralize country instead of democratize country, especially those which are authoritarian right now. But I just wanted to show that that can be a solution somehow, and I hope like and I think from the very beginning, from Andreas' lecture, it was very said. He said it very clearly that like the future for development is like this meta-governance level and then the regional level, yes, because the work is done on the regional level and the cooperation must be done on the higher level. So then we need to find a place for state level and how to balance all of this.
Okay, thank you. Just very few comments from me. First of all, thank you for our joint good work. So jokes aside, what I found very important in both presentations, and now I will say it because we have already two, and I think it will be the case also for the third one. Personally, I was discovering different references from what we were discussing throughout the entire presentation, the entire concept. And really, thank you. It means for me that you have learned something. And, this is the first step to apply those concepts, and it makes sense to discover. Second, the links between different topics. Obviously, you were referring to young generations and youth and so on, and I'm sure that this presentation and the previous will have also linked to the human capital. So this is another illustration of how things need to be addressed in this multidimensional framework. One issue which was addressed, but I think could be addressed more explicitly, and Elena was mentioning this very briefly, issue of equity. There was a whole report on this, Global Human Development Report, Sustainability and Equity. It clearly proves that on the one hand, sustainability is not possible without equitable development, but on the other hand, unsustainable development leads to increasing inequality and inequity. And this is very important dimension because these equity issues can be an important mechanism for building the support base for sustainable development approaches. So just if you are finalizing this, I would suggest to review this. Otherwise,
Thank you.